everyone. How you doing? I'm Dan Casey, and welcome to today's episode of Nerdist News Talks Back. It's our weekly over-the-top talk show about all things pop culture, and once again, thank you so much for joining us. On today's show, the Marvel Cinematic Universe may be taking a hiatus from cinemas this year, but we have updates about its future, including Deadpool 3 and Black Panther 2. Plus, we're going to be talking about that surprise Predator sequel, Netflix's long-awaited Cowboy Bebop series, and of course, HBO's The Last of Us adaptation. All of that plus some Muppets trivia on today's episode of Nerdist News Talks Back. But before we get to all that good stuff, we have to meet today's panel because I can't possibly do it by myself. So first up, she's the host of the Something Scary podcast. You've seen her everywhere from Hunter's Entertainment to Collider Video to DC Daily to doing amazing interviews right here at Nerdist. It's Markeia McCarty.
Hello. Thank you. Oh, such a lovely intro.
I am so stoked to have you here today, Markeia. We have a lot to get into, especially when we get to the Marvel stuff. So I'm very excited.
Looking forward to it.
Yes. Next up, he's the director of operations at Top Cow Productions and the graphic novelist behind La Voz de Mayo da Tatarambo and Helm Greycastle. It's Henry Barajas.
Hey, Dan. I want
back,
you in my
Henry.
eulogy, so please.
Yes, I'm available for that. Folks, you can just find me on Twitter. I'll DM you my rates.
A cameo eulogy, that'd be great.
Of course. Look, I've officiated weddings. It's only fitting that I would then do the other end of the spectrum as well. So I'm a full-service production company just trapped inside a mortal vessel.
Cradle to grave.
Yes, or your money back. And last but not least, she's written enough comics, video games, and novels to basically cask of Amontillado me, and her issue of Star Wars Adventures hits store shelves this week. Please welcome Sam Maggs.
Thanks, Dan.
Sam, I've said it once, I'll say it again. I love the wallpaper. It looks great.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to have a permanent Zoom background now.
Yes, that's all we're looking for in this life. Just a Zoom background to make our own forever.
Yep. A small ask, but mighty. Yeah.
Yeah. We have to slightly adjust the American dream for 2020, but hey, look, it could be worse. All right. Well, let's get this show on the road with a little segment that we like to call Should You Be Wearing a Mask This Week? And the answer is yes. Yes, you should. We are seeing a massive spike in cases across the country, around the world. I saw a horrifying statistic about 40-something% of people are traveling this Thanksgiving. If you have to do so, please do it safely. Please minimize your risk by wearing a mask, being responsible, getting tested, so we can head into the holidays and flu season safely, soundly, and responsibly. Please take care of yourselves. And speaking of the holidays, folks, many people around the country are going to be celebrating Thanksgiving this week, or Friendsgiving, or Solosgiving, whatever. Whether you're with your loved ones or doing your part to flatten the curve, or you just want to eat by yourself and don't be bothered. If you're just that kind of person, that's okay. There's one thing that we can all agree on. It's time to eat our body weight in sweet, delicious holiday treats. So my question to the panel to start things off is, what is your favorite Thanksgiving and or holiday food item? So Markeia, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, yams. I'm a big yams person. I mean, any way, shape, and form that you can do yams, like sweet potato pie. Oh my God. I mean, literally, it's not autumn. It's not Thanksgiving if I don't have one of those. So I'm gonna have to make that myself.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you. It's like especially like I grew up in Massachusetts, and I want that taste of fall. Like in Los Angeles, we're like a city out of time where it's just permanently between 60 and 70 degrees with plus or minus 5 on either end. And I definitely miss that taste of autumn. So sweet potato casserole, yams just sound delicious right now. But Sam, what about you?
Well, I'm Canadian, so celebrating American Thanksgiving is like a relatively new thing for me. But I'm getting into it. You guys have a lot more food options than we do. We don't take Thanksgiving very seriously. Like we have like turkey and stuff, but here there's like, yeah, they do yams and green beans and stuff with marshmallows and everything. Like your selection of Thanksgiving food items is very impressive. But mine is still canned cranberry, and I mean the like jellied kind. The like garbage, like jiggly, whatever, not food that is. I love that. Give it to me. It's very white of me.
No, it is Canberry sauce is a time-tested tradition If it retains the shape of the can, including the grooves afterwards, you know you have a great batch.
Oh
And
yeah.
I've had that. I've had fresh made cranberry sauce using locally sourced cranberries from near where my mother now lives on Cape Cod. But look, it doesn't hold a candle to that can though. It
Yeah.
is. It's just yeah. I'm with you 100% on that one. But
Thank
what
you.
about you, Henry? What would be your pick?
Well, as I've grown up to learn more about my indigenous background, I become more and more guilty of celebrating this holiday. But growing up, my mom's stuffing that she baked into the bird is
Mm.
is my favorite food. I wish I can have year round. And yeah, the canned cranberries, and growing up in a Mexican household, there was always tamales. So I'm gonna miss a lot of those foods, but I'm excited to cook for myself, and I'm not a bad cook, so I'm not too worried.
Awesome. I mean, look, I would. Tamales sounds like something that
Mm.
I'm furious that we didn't have now. I'm just upset at everything I missed out on. Um, my usual answer would be like mashed potatoes, and I do love
Mm.
them. But I was talking to my mom recently, and she mentioned that she is making something else that we would have around the holidays, especially in December, and that's potato latkes. And so now I'm thinking I might want to change things up and do potato latkes instead because oh my God, they're so freaking good. It's just like a pure disc of salty potato goodness. And, add a little texture and variety to this truly surreal holiday season. So why not? Lok Desad 6 in the chat says baked macaroni and cheese. That also sounds fantastic.
Mm.
And Liana Conga says stuffing only. Hello, Liana. Welcome back. Yes, stuffing is I didn't like stuffing when I was a kid, but then once I got older and developed an actual palate, I realized what a fool I'd been just leaving carbs uneaten.
Yeah.
What an idiot child I was. Oh my gosh. Anyway, let's leave
We all got
the
to start
wild world of
somewhere.
thanks. Yeah, exactly. It's a new page in the cookbook of life. But let's leave the realm of holiday treats behind and talk about an unexpected sequel. So locate your nearest chopper and start practicing your bicep curls for a dramatic display of friendship because, folks, there's another Predator film on the way. The news broke last week by way of Deadline that the fifth installment of the Predator series about beefy commandos facing off against stealthy murder monsters will be directed by 10 Cloverfield Lane Helmer, Dan Trachtenberg, and written by Patrick Asen. According to this report, it will largely ignore the developments from 2018's critically lambasted sequel titled The Predator, which was directed by by Shane Black, who also did the original Predator movie way back when. And apparently, not everyone is happy that this particular cat is out of the bag. So director Dan Trachtenberg confirmed the reports on Twitter while saying this was meant to be a surprise. Been working on this for almost 4 years now. I'm very sad that what we had in store for how you could discover this movie will no longer happen. It's a bummer, but also yay. So my question to the panel is, what do you think the big plans for this movie were? Because much like with 10 Cloverfield Lane, it wasn't exactly clear that was going to be a Cloverfield movie until much closer till it actually came out. So, Henry, let's start with you. What do you think that their grand plan for revealing this might have been?
I hope it was like a Rastafarian album because they have like a Rastafarian look to them. They have like,
Look,
I don't know.
Predator sings the hits. That's something I would absolutely listen to.
No Predator, no Cry. I think it would have been cool to have something like that. It's interesting. A 4-year surprise in the making. I think that's it's about time they let the cat out the bag. We need more Predator. We need more Alien. We need both of them together in their own like buddy cop sitcom or something.
I kind
Now
of
that is
wonder
that.
if like you weren't supposed to know it was a Predator movie
Yeah.
until you were already in the theater. Because like you know how in
Mhm.
10 Cloverfield Lane, if it hadn't been titled 10 Cloverfield Lane, like that was clearly not a Cloverfield movie until like the very last shot. Spoilers if you haven't seen it, it's been a long time, so I'm not sorry actually. But like you don't know until the very, very end. So it makes me think that given Dan Trachtenberg's style of writing, or like directing, which I love by the way, and I loved his Portal short film that got him on the map, and I love 10 Cloverfield Lane, and he tends to include really cool badass women in his work, which gives me a lot of hope for like maybe some cool chicks in this. But I kind of feel that like you were supposed to go into it perhaps not knowing that this was a Predator movie, and then there would be like a reveal. That's kind of my thought. But of
Yeah.
course, then you get marketing capitalize on that. So
Yeah, well, I agree. Like, and that would have been nice. I mean, I don't know how they would have done that. Like, would it have been called To Catch a Predator? And then
Chris Hansen
it
walks into
is.
the wrong house,
It is
just
the
gets
Predator.
eviscerated.
You know, like what would it Eat, Love, and Predator? I don't even know how they would have been able to hide that big of a surprise. But yeah, it you know what, it kind of reminds me of Terminator Salvation, where they did like the big reveal in the trailer, so then it's like you didn't have that impact during the actual movie. And it's a shame. Sometimes we should just keep secrets. It's okay to have some secrets kept. So, but I'm sure the movie's gonna, like, Sam was saying, I'm sure the movie's gonna stand on its own no matter what. But
Mhm.
I would have liked that surprise. Like, you're
Yeah.
watching this really great movie, and then it's like, holy crap, this is in the Predator verse. Awesome.
yeah, it seems like there really is this like tension between wanting to create something that is very interesting and surprising versus, well, then I can't use Predator in the marketing materials, so how are we going to sell tickets? And I don't actually know if there's like a good solution for that besides like just make it look like a good movie and have that be like a reveal. I don't know, but you're never going to convince marketing people of that like ever.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, I think what they might have potentially been doing is maybe they were trying to put something together for a surprise streaming service release, something like that, or kind of like what they did with that movie. I think it was connected to, I think it was the Cloverfield Paradox,
Yeah.
that they dropped the trailer for it during the Superb Owl, or the big game, as our lawyers insist I call it. And immediately following the large event, they dropped that on Netflix, and everyone was like, what is this surprise Cloverfield movie? So maybe there was some sort of plan with that to drop like a surprise movie on like a Disney Plus or a Hulu. But I don't know as well, they might have just made it look like a thriller, like where something's hunting these people, then you find out over the course of the movie that it actually is Predator, because and then you just rely on that word of mouth to generate outsized box office. But I'm sure it's definitely that push and pull with the marketing people being like, no, you can't put a Predator in the movie and not let me talk about it. I have all this budget to spend. But that said, what do you want to see from a Predator movie nowadays? Because, I was among those who was disappointed by the 2018 one. Not that I don't love seeing Jacob Tremblay accidentally murder a bunch of people. It just was like, it kind of just fell apart. It had a bunch of people I enjoy and it just ultimately didn't stick the landing when all was said and done. So what do you want to see from a Predator movie nowadays? Henry, let's start with you.
I want to see a prequel. Like, how do these predators become predators? Is there a magical planet full of, hunters? And why do, I want to see why they do this. And I want to see how they get to that point where they have to fight Arnold Schwarzenegger and his elite commandos. I think that would be fun.
Yeah,
well, I will say, I do like the idea of Predator, and there is their homeworld of Yocha Prime, which they've explored in the comics, I believe, but I don't know if we've seen a lot of that on the big screen or the small screen, whatever screen you're watching it on, because I'm not a prexpert, but I am curious. It would be interesting to see them sort of like where they came from back in the first place, because then just a movie just comprised entirely of Predators, that would be pretty tight. But yeah, what about you, Sam? What would you like to see from a Predator movie nowadays?
I'm gonna be honest, I have no strong feelings about Predator. I never
That's
felt
fair.
like these movies were like for me. They don't really appeal to me in any particular way. So I don't really care. What I am interested in is I love Dan Trachtenberg, but Patrick Asen has only written like a couple random episodes of television. Like he's done an episode of Jack Ryan, he's done an episode of Treadstone, and like I have not much else. So I feel like I don't have a bead on like what his style is the way I do with Dan Trachtenberg. I don't know what Patrick Asen is bringing to the table here. So I'm super curious to see what because he does a lot of like political thrillers, like people thrillers. And so I think that's like going to be really interesting to see how he like takes that and puts it into the Predator verse. So that was not really an answer to your question, but
No, I mean,
I'm
look,
interested to find out.
I will accept that. I will accept that answer. And before we move on, we have Cree Calhoun in the chat saying Batman versus Predator. Another,
I think Markeia had something though as well.
Yes, Markeia,
Oh,
please.
yeah, no, just basically, I'm one of those people that drank the Predator Kool-Aid. So it's like literally, I'll watch it. I mean, I'll watch it and I will find something that I will enjoy in it. You know, it could literally be a movie where it's like, oh, us stupid humans decide to go after them on their home planet, like set it in the future, and they were like, yeah, we're gonna take them all out. Sure. Oh, cool. You got my money. You got my rent bucks, or you got my $18 to own the film.
Yeah,
I'm one of those people.
Just as long as none of those invaders wind up surviving that movie, and the fine folks of Yucha Prime get to just enjoy their endless cycle of blood sport and training for stealthy whatever they do there, I'm happy with it. So I would watch any of these sequels, and I am curious as well to see what they're going to do with this one. But moving on from Predator, let's talk about something else that I am alternately excited and morbidly curious about, and that is Cowboy Bebop. 3, 2, 1, let's jam, because there are some new updates about Netflix's long-awaited Cowboy Bebop live-action TV adaptation, all about our favorite spacefaring bounty hunters. Last week, news broke that the highly anticipated series added 6 actors to the series in mostly supporting roles, including Jeff Stultz as Jet Black's former co-detective, who's now dating Jet Black's ex-wife. Yikes. We have Tamara Tooney as Anna, who runs a jazz club on Mars and basically serves as Spike Spiegel's surrogate mom, and Mason Alexander Park as Gren, Anna's right-hand person, described as, quote, a Bowie-esque embodiment of 22nd century handsome and seductive beauty who is as capable with their wit as a Glock, which pretty awesome right there. So they also joined the previously announced John Cho as the cavalier but compassionate bounty hunter Spike Spiegel, Mustafa Shakir as Jet Black, the cop turned space dad, Daniela Pineda as the femme fatale Faye Valentine, Alex Hassel as the villainous Vicious, and Elena Satine as Julia, Spike's former flame. So my question to the panel is, what are your thoughts on this new and existing cast, and what do you hope to see from this series? Sam, I see you having a visceral reaction there.
Oh my God, I'm so excited for this. I'm remaining cautiously optimistic about this. I think, like many people, Cowboy Bebop is my favorite anime. I love the casting for Jet and Faye and Spike. I think Spike especially is inspired casting. I think that's been great. But I have a couple questions. The first is, who's playing Radical Edward? We still don't have an answer for that yet. Fourth, like, main cast member here. That's big for me. And the second thing that I'm super excited about this announcement in particular is Mason Alexander Park as Gren is an amazing choice. Mason is non-binary themselves. And on Twitter, they said that Gren's original line from the anime, I am both at once and neither one, when talking about their gender, is one of the most poignant non-binary quotes in television history. And they're really pleased with Bebop's decision to continue to hold space for that story to be told with care and intense thoughtfulness. So I love that they took this character that in the anime is like clearly non-binary and like is handled like a little weird because anime is old at this point. Like, our way of talking about these things changes very quickly. But I think it's amazing that they have like really taken that to heart and cast an amazing non-binary actor who's obviously very passionate about this. And like, I think that's so cool. More of that. I want more of that.
Exactly. And also just the description that they give of Gren in this just gets me so hyped up for some like David Bowie-esque like glam androgyny on a Martian jazz club. And it's interesting because now that I was reading about this a little bit more and talking about how this character, they wanted to treat it perhaps with the same level of care they are now, but they didn't necessarily have the same vocabulary to describe what they wanted to that we do nowadays. So it's nice to see that they are staying true to the spirit of the series while making thoughtful, progressive changes to the source material. So I'm very excited to see what they're going to do with this. But I'm curious, you know, I because it is so near and dear to my heart, you know, as a bomb-ass soundtrack and all these iconic characters, you know, anime adaptations have a spotty track record at best. That is being very generous. They have enough trouble adapting to live action in many instances in Japan, in Japanese, but doubly so when you try to take that and transpose it for American audiences. So how do you think that Cowboy Bebop can avoid the pitfalls that so many American and live action anime adaptations fall into? And Markeia, let's start with you on this one.
Sure. Don't do what Death Note did. That's that's a big one. Be aware of the nuances that come with this, with this particular anime, with anime in general. It's like you don't do broad brush strokes when it comes to this. You pay attention and respect the original subject matter, like you said with the soundtrack. I mean, I have I have, like, the whole 10 hours of Cowboy Bebop. I have that for when I need to get some writing done. As part of the rotation. I mean, I feel like they're going to do a good job on this. One of the things was, yes, obviously, gender variant representation, like respecting that. Obviously, with like the choices of the actors that they have picked, and as far as Edward's concerned, it's like I'm a-okay with that being a newcomer that we don't really hear about. We only really experience them when we actually see them, on the screen. I am a-okay with that. I just really, really need for them to not just make it a shoot it up space thriller. I want us to go in on those characters. I want us to feel the music change along with what's going on screen. I just I need for them to do that, because I don't want to ever like click on this for Netflix, or I don't want to be that person that's like, well, I can't ever watch any live action Netflixes because I know what I'm going to get. I want them to surprise.
Yeah, I think especially when you have, I think you brought up some great points, especially like even just looking at the source material. This is like, even like decades later, it is one of the most stylish anime of all time. It's influenced so many people. And I think to their credit, the people at Netflix and Tomorrow Studios who are making this have tapped one of the series creators, Shinichiro Watanabe, as a creative consultant to hopefully keep a thumb on the pulse of this. But yeah, it's a real challenge because, there's Netflix was in the headlines a few months ago when the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender left that departure over creative differences. And like, look, sometimes the intersecting forces of commerce and art are often at odds, which is disappointing, but it is an unfortunate byproduct of the world in which we live. But I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic with this. But I'm curious for you, Henry, what knowing that the creators involved and knowing that like the approach that they seem to be taking from the casting, what we've seen so far, what do you hope to see from Cowboy Bebop, and what do you think it needs to do to succeed?
Well, like you said, the Avatar news about the creators kind of stepping out for creative reasons really doesn't sit well with me for this. And as Markeia had mentioned, the Death Note series was not well received. So it's one of those things where like I have such a special memory of waiting until like midnight to watch Cowboy Bebop with my sister, and we would make ramen cups so we could watch this together. And so there's this like nostalgic feeling, and also going to the movie theater to see the feature length film. There's so much love and respect for this property that I don't have with a lot of things that isn't like outside of Batman and the Avengers. So and also we live in a time where you need a good adaptation. Amazon really delivers with the boys. Like, if they don't do well with this, there are other places to go to get good adaptations for things that we love. So I think this is a real make or break moment for Netflix and anime fans.
Yeah, and I also think as well they maybe have an advantage as opposed to certain things like Death Note, because this is a series versus like a movie. Where like if you're trying to cram the entire saga of Cowboy Bebop into 2 hours, you're going to just look foolish and like leave with not really a good sense of who these characters are. Like the Cowboy Bebop feature film is a great encapsulation, but it also expects you, I think, to have at least a working knowledge of a lot of who these characters are. But I'm hopeful that, much like seems to be the case with, as we'll get to in our next segment, with video game adaptations from the console or the PC to the television screen. I think that might be the way to go as opposed to feature films. And on that note, let's just jump right into it, because folks, I have a question for you. Are you ready to have your heart ripped out of your chest all over again? Because HBO sure hopes so, because they've officially greenlit a TV adaptation of Naughty Dog's gut-wrenching apocalyptic action-adventure game, The Last of Us. Now, this adaptation comes from Chernobyl's Craig Mazin, The Last of Us creative director Neil Druckmann, and it takes place in the wake of a deadly virus that turned much of humanity into mutated nightmare creatures. It tells the story of Joel, a grizzled smuggler who's hired to transport Ellie, a 14-year-old girl, across the country. And as anyone who's played the game can tell you, what follows is alternately heartfelt and horrifying as they brave unknown dangers. Now, this is the latest in a slew of high-profile video games getting TV adaptations, joining the likes of Halo, Resident Evil, and Assassin's Creed. So my question to the panel is, what do you think of this creative team, and what do you want to see from a The Last of Us television series? So Markeia, let's start with you on this one.
Oh man. Yeah, gut-wrenching Last of Us. I mean, literally with Last of Us 2, I was so excited, started playing it, and then I hit a wall where it's like, I'm not emotionally ready for this. Like I need to not do this for a while, and I haven't picked it back up since, because 2020. I really like that they're doing this as a series, as opposed to a movie, just because just much like the video game is, there's a certain binge factor to it. There's also too much story to just have within 2 hours or even 3 hours. You need 10 hours. You need 10 episodes to be able to do this trajectory. As much as I can be a purist sometimes when it comes with my nerdery, and then other times I'm like, I'm a-okay with homebrew. It's like, show me something new. For this, because we have spent so much time in this world, fighting clickers, we've all been fireflies, we're spent so much time in that world. I am a-okay with them delivering something new to this, like delivering like a different angle with it, perhaps getting us in the encampment of fireflies, seeing it from their view with everything, because we see things from Joel and Ellie. Like that's where we exist. So it's easier. I'm not going to give things away. It's easier to be on Joel's side with some of the decisions that he makes. And then that's something that's explored in The Last of Us too, right? Where it's like, hey, those decisions have consequences. So what I want from the TV series is that I want to see it from the other side. I would love for them to be able to deliver that, because we already know Joel and Ellie. So let's see more of the other side of that.
This is the story of a cordyceps mutated horror named Clickstifer. He has no idea what's about to happen. It's a shiv, and it's about to go right in his neck. No, but I do think, dumb bits aside, I think you make some excellent points there, because that's something that people point to with turning video games and other properties like that into TV shows or movies or whatever, is you already know the story beats. How are you going to combat those that like part of what makes the game so great is you don't know what's coming. And even when you do know what's coming, it still is just this like gut punch when you can kind of anticipate that. But having that roadmap all laid out, do you think it'd still be successful? I would posit yes, to a certain degree, because at least in this case, the source material is finished, unlike certain Games of Thrones I could name. So you at least like have your roadmap for success all laid out. And having Neil Druckmann involved as one of the creative team, and having Craig Mazin, who I thought just nailed that sense of doom and just doom and gloom in Chernobyl, where you have these people who are trying to take a stand against like truly insurmountable odds. I think that could translate well to a property like The Last of Us.
Between Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin, this is gonna be a real bucket of laughs, eh? It's gonna be a real lighthearted, a real fun romp. This
Slapstick.
one, I totally, and I actually think that and what Markeia brought up is a great point, and it's something that I was feeling as well, which is I love video game adaptations. I love that video games are getting the chance to shine in other forms of media. I love that The Last of Us, which is an amazing IP created by wonderful people, is getting the chance to do this. However, I would say like I am okay never seeing any zombie media again for the rest of my life. Like I'm over zombies right now. I don't need another zombie television show. If it has to be a zombie TV show, I'm very glad it's The Last of Us. But I'm sort of over it. And to the same point as Markeia, like we're living through a global deadly pandemic right now. And what I want to watch is not that on television. I don't want to see that. Like I'm already deeply depressed and my family members are already like afraid of dying from the pandemic. Like I don't also need to then experience that. Like in my media, I would like to watch something fun and light and comfortable. And that might not be everyone's experience, but that's certainly my experience right now, which is why like I too have not been able to finish The Last of Us 2. It feels like not like I can't do it right now. Like this is just a personal thing, but I can't do it right now. So that's kind of tough because I feel like if this show was maybe coming out like 5 years ago, I would be more like really gung ho about it, but I feel like exhausted by the idea of watching it. But to that point, like I think it's going to be really well done. Neil Druckmann is famously very likes to be hands-on and deeply involved. So it's not surprising that he would be involved with this. And I think getting the Chernobyl team or like people who worked on that show to work on this makes perfect sense. I hope other people dig it because I can't watch it.
No, I hear you. It's there's like a weird trend right now where everyone's like, what if we made, at least it's not like a social distancing movie where it's like told through Zoom. If I see
Yeah.
one more of those, like I'm going to give whatever development executive greenlit that the Stone Cold Stunner through the nearest table because it's just unconscionable.
Yeah.
Then you have other stuff like Songbird, the like pandemic thriller with that Michael Bay is producing. And there's just this, at least I think, like between this and you have The Stand coming out on CBS All Access, where another thing about a plague that wipes out most of humanity, at least it is built upon a foundation of already beloved genre fiction. And like you have that, like it's not like, oh, you know what I could do? I could do COVID, but better. It's not trying to do that. Like
that's why like if there had to be any zombie pandemic thing, like it should be The Last of Us. Like that's great. And I want it to be really good and really successful. I just like I'm not emotionally able to handle that.
Yeah, but meanwhile, I'm a glutton for punishment, and I'm just like, yeah, give me some depressing stuff to play. I'm gonna play A Plague Tale: Innocence at some point over this like Thanksgiving break. It's gonna be great. But I'm curious, Henry, do you feel the same way, or do you think we're having sort of too much doom and gloom with this? Is now the right time for The Last of Us? What do you want to see from this?
You know, I stopped playing video games, but I recently moved into a situation during the pandemic where my roommates were shocked that I'd never heard of this game or played it. So they insisted that I sit down and watch them play it. And watching it's
I think you might be buffering there. I'm not sure if we lost your connection. I can't hear you, Henry. I apologize. Don't mean to cut you off. But yes, I think
this isn't already a movie.
I think we may have lost you there for a moment, Henry. I'm not sure.
You know,
maybe it's just my connection.
No, I'm not hearing either.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
It's happening right
All right. I apologize, Henry. I think you are. You look on my screen. You look very thoughtful, as though you were like pondering a great point. I think you're just trapped in the ether. But I think what I was hearing you say is that it's already a very cinematic game. And that might be a unique hurdle for it to encounter. Just going to vamp a little bit while we wait for Henry to rejoin us. But yes, it is a challenge where you don't want to just make people feel like they're sitting through cutscenes, because that's a challenge with games like Metal Gear Solid or The Last of Us.
Well, and to Markeia's point too about like having already experienced the narrative, like not only this is a unique challenge, I think, of adapting video games into other mediums, but when you're playing a video game, it's a lot more emotional because it's active storytelling. You are the character, you are Joel, you are Ellie. So there's this extra like personal element of it where you feel like you are in the story, whereas television is a passive medium where the story is happening at you. You are not controlling the story. And so you lose that element of connection that is a core part of video game narrative and video game narrative writing. So when you lose that, you have to supplement it with something. And I think a lot of the time people go into video game movies expecting to feel the same way about the characters that they do when they're playing the game. And you can't, because it's a fundamentally different kind of storytelling. And that's a hurdle that I feel like it is possible to leap, but it is a unique challenge.
I'm just gonna do an experiment next time with next time I watch like a video game franchise, like the Assassin's Creed movie. Not that I would ever watch that again because I care about myself too much.
You don't have to rewatch that one.
But if I'm just gonna do it with a controller in hand, it's not gonna be plugged in, and I'm just gonna press buttons and see if that makes me enjoy it more. If I'm tricking my brain into thinking, oh, I'm making these upsetting choices. I'm the one choosing to stay mostly in the present instead of talking about the interesting stuff back in the past. Anyway, that's a story for another time. Now that Henry's back, I want to move on to the world of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Folks, rumors of Wade Wilson's demise were greatly exaggerated, it seems, because the decidedly not Disney-friendly Deadpool franchise seems to be moving full steam ahead with the incredibly successful Ryan Reynolds starring Marvel series. Now, according to a report from Deadline, Marvel Studios has tapped the hilarious Bob's Burgers writers Wendy Molyneux and Lizzie Molyneux-Loughlin to pen this threequel. Now, sources indicate it'll still be an R-rated film like the previous two, but it's also the first one being made under Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios' stewardship. It's also unlikely that Deadpool 2 director David Leitch will return for this, but Ryan Reynolds obviously will be back. So my question to the panel, and Henry, we're going to start with you, is what are your thoughts on this news, and what do you want to see from Deadpool 3?
You know, I went into these movies not expecting much, and they keep blowing me away. And I'm always very happy with what they put out there. Deadpool 2, especially with Cable, and just the plus-sized kid who was, the showing us, we don't always have to follow that same path, but there's the whole new mutants coming out. We also have Marvel characters that weren't accessible, that are now, just it's like a big treasure chest of toys, and you could just pull out whatever you want now. And one of the beautiful things about Deadpool is that it's always looking to bring out the most obscure characters, and that's what I'm really excited about. And it's just one of those things where with the new Bob's Burgers writers or people attached, it's going to be that much more funnier. And I really am excited to see how candid they could be, especially with, we've seen in the first two movies, how they just really pull back the kayfabe and really talk about what's happening behind the scenes. And it's going to be interesting to see if he even lands on Disney Plus, because a lot of things, rated R don't really make it there.
Yeah, I feel like they need to add a new tab like Disney Plus After Dark or something. But it is a good point. Like, if there's any person who's equipped to kind of comment on how ridiculous it is that he has been kind of bifurcated into this other universe the entire time while coexisting with this other wildly successful franchise, it is Wade Wilson in Deadpool, given his penchant to break the fourth wall. But I'm curious, Markeia, how do you think that Deadpool 3 would fit into the modern Marvel Cinematic Universe canon?
Well, well, because it's Deadpool, they can do so much with this, because not only did they crack open the X-Force can, but they also cracked open time traveling. Like, that's just canon for Deadpool now. I mean, the places that they can go with this are fantastic and wonderful. I don't think they shouldn't do a thing where everything's taken away from Deadpool again. Like, oh, okay, we've seen that. You don't have to, go down that route with everything. They could literally go to places like there's, they could take Deadpool to Krakoa, which is literally a sentient living island, and I would sit there and watch Deadpool get his behind beat by an island, like. Things around him, and him trying to fight that, and then realizing, you know what, let me just leave and detonate it, like with like a Deadpool-esque thing. I mean, they could go the route where they finally have a Vanessa Carlisle. They can have her be copycat. Like, there could be something that happened with the time traveling or something in that sense where she could literally become copycat, and that say, well, I'm not that's literally a being that can copycat somebody all the way down to their molecular level.
Mhm.
They could even do like a hidden thing where she's been that the entire time. There's an amnesia thing. It's Deadpool. I'll buy it. They could. There's so many things they could bring in. Landau Lakeman and I'm sorry, it's Landau Luckman and Lake. They could bring that in. That's like a covert shadow organization that deals with time travel and the such. I mean, it's it's Deadpool. They can do talking dogs. I'm like, yeah, that's real. That works.
Yeah.
Literally
Mhm.
anything. I would love for them to have a Spider-Man cameo in there, but not Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Just because he's so young looking, and that I would be like so uncomfortable
Mhm.
Yeah,
seeing that.
keep that precious angel far, far away from Wade Wilson as long as possible. He will just just corrupt his young mind. But no, I think you bring up a great point. Like with Deadpool, it does feel like you're kind of taking the narrative reins and just like the chains off and just being able to do whatever you want. I'd love to see him do something crazy and kind of play with the fourth wall, like a Mojoverse type thing where he realizes he's been in this like media universe where the Fox Marvel universe was being like one of the many reality television shows that Mojo controls, and then trying to get back to the main MCU. I'd even love to see them do something like Animaniacs, where like Deadpool is the Warner Brothers of this universe, where he just
Yeah.
like kind of breaks free and runs amok on actual Marvel sets, settles the beef between which Hollywood Chris is the best, all that fun stuff. I do think that the world is their oyster, and I'm very curious what they're going to do with this and how they bring Wade into the Marvel canon.
I think the
What do you-
Molyneux sisters are like the perfect people to do this too. They're so funny. Like Bob's Burgers is so funny. They've already confirmed it looks like that Psylocke is going to be in the movie, that Olivia Munn is going to be returning. So that's cool. She's a great character. And they're also, we were talking about video game movies. The Molyneux sisters have also adapted recently The Sims
Oh wow.
into
Or
a
our
feature
parent
film.
company, Legendary.
For Legendary, yes, indeed.
That was news to
Disclaimer.
me.
Yeah, so that was very interesting. Don't know how you do that. And I see they have also penned an all-female 21 Jump Street spinoff called
Oh
Now
wow.
21 Jump Street Now for Her Pleasure.
For her.
So I feel like they're really like these sisters have done the like adaptation circuit recently, so they're like deeply in it, and they're also hilarious. Like I think it's gonna be. I think they have the sensibility to like take all of those things you guys are talking about and bring it to the screen in a way that is like not only very funny but also like punches up, which is always the fear with something like Deadpool. It's very easy to punch down, but I think they'll be able to punch up. So it's
Yeah, and while I do like Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, and I thought they did a great job with the first two
Yes.
films, it's going to be nice to get some fresh voices and perspectives in there and make it feel like less of a boys' club from the top down. But I am curious how it's all going to shake out, especially now that you add Kevin Feige and the Marvel Studios team into the mix, because they like to keep a very short leash on any and all of their projects. But only time will tell. In the interest of time, I do want to move on because one of the biggest Marvel movies, one of the most anticipated Marvel movies, is a sequel whose future has kind of been a bit of a question mark at this point. I am, of course, talking about Black Panther 2. And while the world still mourns the tragic loss of Chadwick Boseman, Marvel Studios is looking to the future for one of its most inspiring, profitable, and energizing franchises, Black Panther. Last week, The Hollywood Reporter reported that Black Panther 2 is heading into production in July 2021. The shoot, which will take place in Atlanta, could last upwards of 6 months and will reportedly see Letitia Wright, Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, and Angela Bassett all returning, and Wright's character, Shuri, is going to reportedly be taking on a much more prominent role. Now, there are no public plans on how they plan to continue without Chadwick Boseman. Marvel execs have already said they won't be using CGI or something like that to add the departed actor to the sequel. And the report also indicates that Narcos Mexico star Tena Huerta is joining the cast of the Ryan Coogler-directed film, reportedly in an antagonist role. So my question, let's start with this, is obviously with Letitia Wright, in the comics, Shuri is someone who becomes Black Panther, takes on the mantle of Black Panther. Do we think that she's going to take on the mantle in T'Challa's absence? What do you want to see from this sequel? Markeia, let's start with you.
Yeah, there's I will keep this short and nerdy. Very short. Very short. This could have been the entire show. I will just say that. Yeah, I very much feel like Letitia Wright will take on the role of Black Panther, and then like it does in the comics. As far as for the sequel, I have been saying for a number of years for like Black Panther 2 to have a Namor the Submariner, to have the storyline in there where like Namor confronts not only Black Panther but all of Wakanda. They've even kind of planted the seeds for this in Infinity War, where there's like, oh, there's earthquakes that are happening, and this was between Okoye and uh, Black Widow, where it's like, oh, these earthquakes are happening. We're trying to figure out what's going on, kind of a thing. uh One of the way that Namor attacks Wakanda is he floods it, which is pretty smart. And yes, I would love to see Namor, but I also always saw him as a Daniel Day Kim kind of type. Nothing against this actor though. With it, having Namor for the sequel's antagonist would be very, very satisfying, albeit low hanging fruit for it. And I would also worry that they might end up killing Namor, because they kind of did that in the original Black Panther with both Claw and Killmonger, who are excellent Black Panther villains. And I just could not believe. So for the sequel, I think something that they could have Horta play is the character. This is a bit obscure. Wind Eagle. If you kind of fudge Wind Eagle's origins just a bit, you can have him. And Wind Eagle is uh, he's got an anti-gravity suit and like knockout gas and that kind of a thing, and that can fit into an Iron Man world. And so what I would want them to do is to have like Wind Eagle be part of the Hattusarazi, which is think Wakandan secret police type of a deal. Within Wakanda, sure, but they actually have it as like assassins and spies out into the world to figure out what's going on. So if you have him as Wind Eagle doing that, where he's got like his lips up to Nakia's ear, um, you could also bring in, with the character Wind Eagle, you could bring in the Dragon Circle, which the Dragon Circle, picture like a political cult that's all about political power and brainwashing. Like they in the comics, they've kidnapped Black Panther, brainwashed him before, but it's like you would get something that Black Panther did well in the first film was like descent within the ranks. So if you have Wind Eagle in a prominent place in like the Hattusarazi, whispering into Nakia's ear, who in the comics even becomes Malice, maybe with that possible brainwashing aspect with Dragon Circle, and all this time you have Wind Eagle being like, "This child will lead us. This is where we've fallen." And sure, you could have like Namor as a big bad, but I also just want to have this political conflict of everything happening, and then have Shuri like step up to the plate, where she's like, being Black Panther is more than muscles. Being Black Panther is standing for my people in every which way that I can. And her bringing that technology aspect, and I don't know what she's been doing in quarantine. Maybe Letitia Wright's been like, you know,
Just getting straight up jacked.
you
Yeah,
know,
no, I think those are great points as well, because, like Shuri is a very different Black Panther than T'Challa. Sometimes it's more about like using your wits and agility versus just raw punching power in certain cases. And I think that would force her to outsmart her opponents in unique ways. And something else that I've seen that I found very interesting. I love the Wind Eagle pull, by the way. It's such a lovely deep cut there. I think, and the type of thing that Marvel loves to do. Something else I've seen for rumors for Tenoch Huerta is that he could be playing a version of White Tiger, but perhaps a combination of Hector Ayala, the original White Tiger, and Casper Cole, this sort of anti-hero-esque guy who took on the Black Panther identity as White Tiger when he got a synthetic version of the heart-shaped herb from Eric Killmonger. So maybe they could have this sort of be a thing where power abhors a vacuum. T'Challa is missing. They need a leader, someone to take on this role. And you have this person emerging because they seemingly have the powers of the heart-shaped herb from whatever synthetic version they were able to manufacture. Because as we saw in the original, they burned most of it, but maybe they saved samples so they can manufacture it on the black market. But who knows? I do think that there are a lot of possibilities for this sequel. But Henry, what would you like to see from a Black Panther sequel?
It feels so soon. As much as I love the series, Chadwick Boseman was a person, and he did have a legacy and a family. So I want to see a lot of respect. And I know Ryan Coogler and the cast and everyone working on this film has a really big, project ahead of themselves. Suri was, I think, is going to be the most logical Black Panther, and she's done it in the comics and Claws of the Panther series. And I think that's going to be really exciting to see because she was such a lovable character and so powerful in her own right. And yeah, I'm just really. What I loved about Black Panther is that like Markeia said, a lot of characters died, but it's its own thing. So I can't wait to see it depart from itself in such a different way in and from maybe the comics, and seeing something completely different and having an experience that was just as magical and seismic shifting from everything that we've seen in superhero comics to what we've seen in the films.
Well, I think you bring up some good points there, and I imagine that Chadwick Boseman and his legacy are first and foremost in the mind, not just of fans, but especially of everyone involved in making this movie. Like, they want to make sure they're honoring him, and especially the impact that this role had on so many people all around the world. You just watch that video of when he surprised fans who were talking to the poster about what the character and everything meant to them. That was just such one of the. Sometimes those videos feel a little hokey or contrived, but that just felt so raw and delightful that I found myself just rewatching that over and over in the days that followed his passing. But I also was on Twitter, as I'm wont to do, and I found something from @Dr. Jason Johnson, which I found curious and just resonated because clearly it struck a nerve with people. He said, "This is fine." And it was in response to the news about them proceeding with Black Panther 2. "This is fine, but T'Challa should be recast. I've seen 7 white guys play Batman and 5 white guys play Superman in my life. Heath Ledger passed after getting an Oscar for Joker, and the character's been played by 2 actors since. Black Panther deserves to live on as well." And yes, there were plenty of people in the comments stipulating that, yes, these were alternate timelines and different continuities and things like that. And other people in the comments saying that, well, Marvel's recast, they've recast James Rhodes, and they've recast as well the Hulk. But I do think that those are slightly different situations than a headlining character like T'Challa and Black Panther. But I'm curious, what do you think about Johnson's statements? Do you think that T'Challa should eventually be recast, or do we just proceed as is?
I mean, I think the best thing about comics and the opportunity that they provide us is that we don't always have to just use the same characters over and over again. Like, characters can evolve. Ms. Marvel can become Captain Marvel, and we can have a new kind of Ms. Marvel. We can have Captain America go from being Steve Rogers to being Sam Wilson without having to say, like, okay, but this is the same Captain America. Like, we can have different people take on these really, like, these great mantles. And on the one hand, I understand why T'Challa is so meaningful to people. I do feel to Henry's point that the most respectful thing for the team to do at this point would be to do like they do in the comics and pass the mantle to Shuri, as opposed to recasting, because Chadwick was so iconic in that role, and it does feel really soon to put a new actor in T'Challa's shoes. So personally, I don't know. I think that the great benefit of comics is the ability for the characters to, like, pass that title along to different people. Yeah, so I kind of think they should do that. I also think that another interesting role for Huerta that I've seen passed around is Doctor Doom.
Yes.
who's like a big Black Panther villain. I think that would be kind of cool. I think it would be neat to maybe move Latveria into like South America and have that kind of like political intrigue be part of it. Could be very interesting. I love the white tiger idea, although yeah, they would have to do more to make him like an antagonist. But I think Namor is both the most obvious and the most exciting to me in a way. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I hope it's Shuri. I think it would be hard to see someone else's T'Challa right now.
I think
Yeah.
Markeia should get hired by Marvel. I mean, that whole like Patton Oswalt community, like that. I mean, Parks and
Or the
Rec
Parks and
speech he
Rec,
just gave
yeah.
was clutch.
Yeah.
Thanks. I felt like I was just talking out my ears, so I'm glad that made some sense.
Yeah, I will say as well.
Tweeting out my ideas. Maybe the remote.
Just tweet them into a document and just send it directly to Kevin Feige. No, but I will say I like the Namor idea less now because I just want Daniel Day Kim as Namor. Now that you put that image in my brain, Markeia, I can't unsee this hypothetical. More Daniel Day Kim all the time, always, please and thank you.
Yeah, I mean he's been campaigning for that almost as long as Ryan Reynolds was campaigning for Deadpool.
Yes, seriously. Justice for Daniel Day Kim. He deserves more than the 2019 Hellboy movie. I want to see him in a better comic book adaptation. No offense to everyone involved in that movie. They were all very lovely people, but come on, give us Daniel Day Kim with the winged feet and mighty chainmail Speedo that we all deserve. Awesome. So with that said, folks, we are done with the news for the day, and now it's time for some good old-fashioned Nerdist News trivia. Now, we here at the Nerdist News Institute for the Trivial Arts like to connect our trivia to the barest of threads. Now, given that it is the 9-year anniversary of the release of 2011's The Muppets, well, that's enough of a reason for us to do some very broad Muppets trivia. So hold on to your butts, and let's do this. Does everyone have a pen, pencil, or crayon, something to write with?
You're going down, Sam.
Oh no!
I'm definitely going down. We made this thing. We were like gonna have a rivalry. I don't know anything about the Muppets. That's not even an interesting rivalry at this point. I'm just gonna lose.
It's
like I don't know directors. I don't know release dates.
Don't worry.
Oh dear gosh.
You will always have between a 25 and 50% chance of getting the correct answer.
Love it.
So,
I'll be laughing if I'm
silver
last in
lining
this, actually.
this Muppet playbook. All right, question number 1. Jim Henson originally created the Muppets in 1955 for his local TV network. What was the name of that show? Was it A, Sam and Friends, B, Kermit and the Gang, C, The Henson Show, or D, Saucy Puppet Hour? Was it A, Sam and Friends, B, Kermit and the Gang, C, The Henson Show, or D, Saucy Puppet Hour? What was the original name for Jim Henson's Muppet Show in 1955 for his local TV network? All right, let's see those answers, folks. Choose wisely. Okay, we have C. What did you write? C as well? I'm so sorry. The answer is in fact A, Sam and Friends.
Oh. Sam Sam the Eagle?
That's my guess. Sam and Friends ran from 1955 to 1961, and each episode was only 5 minutes long. So he was on that webisode tip way before anybody else.
I think
Quibi should have.
This is the Berenstain Bears situation. It was the Saucy Puppet Show.
Yeah, Saucy Puppet Hour is my yes. That's Earth 2
your
for
only
sure.
Fans.
All right, question number 2. Too much Mupp. Okay. Question number 2. True or false? The Muppet Show pilot that aired in 1975 was The Muppet Show: Sex and Violence. True or false? The Muppet Show pilot that aired in 1975 was titled The Muppet Show: Sex and Violence.
I know what I want it to be.
All right, let's see those answers. Okay, the answer is in fact true. So The Muppet Show: Sex and Violence aired on ABC on March 19th, 1975, and parodied the increasing amounts of sex and violence that were coming on TV at that era. It was one of 2 pilots produced for The Muppet Show. The other was called The Muppets Valentine Show and aired in 1974. All right. So, question number 3. Which one of these celebrities does not make a cameo in the 1999 film Muppets from Space? Is it A, Hulk Hogan, B, Ray Liotta, C, Britney Spears, or D, Rob Schneider? Which
I've
of these
never seen this
celebrities
movie.
does not make a cameo? It's okay. In the 1999 film Muppets from Space. Is it A, Hulk Hogan, B, Ray Liotta, C, Britney Spears, or D, Rob Schneider?
What was the year again?
1999. It was
Alright.
before the turn of the millennium.
I think I got this wrong.
All right. I saw Henry's answer there. Sam, you have okay. Well, the answer is, in fact, C. It's not Britney, bitch. She wasn't in the movie. That's so sad.
Yay! Why would she be in space?
Yeah,
that
she
was
was-
literally
Oops,
my
I
thinking.
did it again. She was in
I
space.
know on Mars. That's true.
No, for the Muppets.
Oh,
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah,
line
but
up.
she went to space, I think, after this one came out, if I'm doing the timeline correctly, in my head. Okay, question number 4. I will say here, as our producer notes, unfortunately, Britney Spears has yet to be in a Muppets movie, but someday that will change. I believe that in my heart of hearts.
It's never too late.
Yes. Question number 4, true or false? Kermit's version of Rainbow Connection reached number 25 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1979 and stayed in the top 40 for 7 weeks. True or false? Kermit's version of Rainbow Connection reached number 25 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1979 and stayed in the top 40 for 7 weeks. Did you write false, Sam?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. The answer is true.
Ah.
Never sleep on the
I thought it
power of
was
the
going to be
banjo.
a trick that you were going to be like, it was number 1, actually.
Yeah, you
That's
should
what I
have
thought you
known.
were going to do.
Now that's what I call Kermit, Volume 1. All right, question number 5, everyone. Now, everyone knows the citizens of Sesame Street are Muppets, but do you know the Count's full name? Is it A, Count von Numbers, B, Count Countula, C, the Count of Countdownia, or D, Count von Count? So everyone knows the citizens of Sesame Street are legally Muppets, but do you know the Count's full name? Is it A, Count von Numbers, B, Count Countula, C, the Count of Countdownia, or D, Count von Count?
Oh gosh, I'm struggling. I'm going to go with my first thought.
Just listen to your heart.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat it one more time? I for
Yeah.
some reason, that A, B, C, D doesn't work for me, so I have to write it out.
Gotcha. So it's A, Count von Numbers, B, Count Countula, C, the Count of Countdownia, or D, Count von Count.
Oh.
What is
Is it
your?
just me?
You are correct. The answer is D, Count von Count.
I was debating between A and D, and I went with A, and I shouldn't have.
Count von Numbers is the funniest to me.
It's good.
Count von Count is that's just good writing. They did it. His full name is Count von Count, and the Henson Company has never confirmed or denied if he feeds on human blood. So something to keep you up at night. All right, question number 6. What is one weird trait that almost every Muppet shares? Is it A, they're all inspired by real celebrities or musicians that inspired Jim Henson? Is it B, the majority of them are left-handed? Is it C, they're made of a secret flame retardant material just in case the Henson studio ever catches fire? Or D, that they have the initials JH stealthily embroidered somewhere on them? So what is one weird trait that every Muppet shares? Scientists hate them. What's their one weird trick? Is it A, they're all inspired by real celebs and musicians that inspired Jim Henson? B, the majority of them are left-handed? C, they're made of a secret flame retardant material just in case the Henson studio ever catches fire? Or D, they all have the initials JH stealthily embroidered somewhere on them?
That one.
You are correct if you selected B, left-handed. And the reason is that most Muppets are left-handed because puppeteers tend to use their right hand to operate the head while using the arm rod with their left hand. So
Makes sense.
it's a practical effect there.
All puppeteers know this.
Yes.
There have been so many puppeteers in chat that are like,
This is a blatant falsehood. I'm a left-handed puppeteer. I demand representation. All right. Question number 7. True or false? One of the Muppets is a New York Times best-selling author. True or false? One of the Muppets is a New York Times best-selling author. An NYT BSA, as we all call it. Yes, and Markeia, you get extra credit because it's true. Miss Piggy's Guide to Life was on the New York Times bestseller list for 29 weeks from
Wow.
1981 into 1982. So
I have the hard copy still.
fantastic.
Amazing.
That's cool.
That's awesome. All right, question number 8. The Muppet Show and Sesame Street are well-known favorites, but which of the following is not a Henson Company creation? Is it A, The Storyteller, B, Fraggle Rock, C, Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, or D, Eureka's Castle? Which of the following is not a Henson Company creation? Is it A, The Storyteller, B, Fraggle Rock, C, Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, or D, Eureka's Castle? Okay.
I couldn't write it all down. Big Bear Christmas.
It is unfortunately Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas is a Henson Company production.
Oh.
It's Eureka,
Not is
isn't it?
Eureka's Castle.
Eureka's Castle wasn't?
No, it was a
way.
puppet-centric kid
I
show
knew
co-created
this.
by R.L. Stein, the creator of Goosebumps, but it
Darn
actually
it.
had no affiliation with
That's
Henson.
Ow.
right.
I knew
You're
this
right.
and I talked
That's
myself
wild.
out of it.
That's how they get you.
Yeah.
This is
All right.
rigged.
Exactly. Yes, this is fake trivia. Question number 9. Animal is the drummer for the band that is a staple of Muppets lore. What is the name of that band? Is it A, Dr. Danger and the Reckless Rockers, B, Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, C, the Honkers, or D, the Jammin' Junkers? So what is the name of the Muppets band for which Animal plays the drums? Is it A, Dr. Danger and the Reckless Rockers? Is it B, Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem? Is it C, the Honkers? Or is it D, the Jammin' Junkers? Okay, if you said B, Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, you are correct.
Yay! Because
Good
Feels
job,
like
everybody.
the 70s.
because they're
Yes.
so into psychedelics and stuff. It's
Yeah.
like
Of course.
Yeah.
So the main members of the Electric Mayhem include the titular Dr. Teeth. There's Janice, Zoot, Floyd, Pepper, and of course, Animal on the drums. All right, question number 10. The 1998 movie Jack Frost stars Michael Keaton as a departed father who returns as a snowman to help his still living son. The Henson Company created the snowman animatronic, but it was designed to look like the actor that Keaton replaced. Who did Michael Keaton replace in Jack Frost?
Wow.
Is it A, George Clooney, B, Harrison Ford, C, Robin Williams, or D, John Travolta? So the 1998 movie, Jack Frost, starring Michael Keaton as a dad who comes back to life as a snowman to help his son, the Henson Company made the snowman animatronic, but that snowman was designed to look like the actor that Michael Keaton replaced. So who did Michael Keaton replace? Was it A, George Clooney, B, Harrison Ford, C, Robin Williams, or D, John Travolta?
That was my sister's favorite movie growing up, which is a
Yeah?
weird movie.
Did you ever get it mistaken with the horror one?
All the time.
Yes. Two very different things that I remember seeing on the shelf at Blockbuster back in the day.
what did that snowman look like more?
Choose wisely.
This is
And don't
basically-
offend whatever
It has like a
celeb.
smooth face. It looks like nobody.
Or does
Yeah.
it?
Once you say it, I'm going to see it. And I'm going to be so
Yeah.
mad.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in so long, and I'm about to misspell this poor man's name.
Okay. The answer is A, George Clooney.
Ah.
So George Clooney was supposed to be the lead, and after he dropped out to do Batman and Robin, the Henson Workshop was not able to make a completely new snowman in time that resembled
Wrong
Keaton. So we
move.
still have George trapped in snowman form forever after. So we have our supercomputer tabulating the results, and the results are in. Henry, congratulations.
I've
you
never won anything in my
are
life.
the Muppet King. You have been newly crowned. Your felt trophy is in the mail. And now, as our newly crowned winner, it's time for your 30-second soapbox. The time to get whatever's on your chest off your chest. Talk about whatever you want. So what do you have for us, Henry?
I got a Kickstarter going, promoting my new graphic novel, Helm Greycastle. It's what if Lord of the Rings and Apocalypto has a fantasy. It's a Latinx fantasy written by myself, art by Handoko Ramat, colored by Brian Valenza, lettered by Gabby Downey, and we also have Tristan J. Tarwater and Jen Vaughn doing a one-shot Latinx D&D game. I'm doing my best to do something that combines my love for Lord of the Rings, fantasy, and trying to incorporate more brown people into this space. So check it out on Kickstarter, and go Dodgers, World Series.
Yes. Hell yeah. Go Dodgers, and go check out Henry's amazing art and his amazing project on Kickstarter, Helm Greycastle.
Thank you.
I can't wait. Thank you so much. Okay, next up on our soapbox, Markeia, it's your turn.
Yeah, just real quick before I talk about myself. Also, Warta could be Moreland if they decided to do that storyline. Vampire, yes, but more like a vampire like sucks up, not like blood, like pure sources of energy with like vibranium. That could work, and I would kind of like that because it's like Moreland takes out M'Baku. I know, heart-wrenching,
You
but
need
that's
to
a
write this
possibility.
down.
In any case, yeah, go ahead and hit me up on the social medias. Let's talk some nerd stuff. If you listen to podcasts, Something Scary podcasts, we also do animated horror episodes weekly on youtube.com/snarled. And along with that, I'm in this new podcast, The Shadow Diaries, which so far is number 7 in fiction podcasts. I play Priya, the head choreographer in this. The premise of it is picture your top pop culture icon and what her world might be. And then there are demons there. So it's like, go ahead and check out The Shadow Diaries wherever you find your podcasts, or the Something Scary podcasts wherever you find your podcasts.
Fantastic. That sounds amazing. And also, I like that you just rattled off this entire idea for how we have an energy fracking vampire who's going to create this eco thriller. I can't wait to see this movie. Whatever it winds up being, Kevin Feige, please watch this show and pay Markeia to write it. And last but not least, Sam, it is now your turn on the soapbox. What do you have for us?
Yeah, like Dan said off the top, my issue of Star Wars Adventures #2 is in comic book stores this Wednesday. You can also pre-order the new Marvel Action Captain Marvel issue #1, which is out in January. So if you have a local comic book store, please order the new issue #1 of Captain Marvel. You can also buy my books. Marvel Press's The Unstoppable Wasp Built on Hope is out now, as well as Macmillan's Conquest, about 2 twins who participate in a scavenger hunt at Comic-Con. So if you're missing cons, that might be great for you. And you can also pick up the manga adaptation of Rainbow Rowell's Fangirl, which I adapted and is out now, or the Fangirl's Guide to the Universe and the Fangirl's Journal for Leveling Up, which are also out now. So I don't know, but you could go to my website. A bunch of books are there. If you like Marvel and superheroes and stuff, you might like them.
Yeah, start your Sam Mag shelf today. Fantastic. Well, folks, thank you all so much. I really appreciate you all taking the time to join me. Thank you for everyone who tuned in live to join us in the audience and chat along with us. That is it for today's episode of Nerdist News Talks Back. I really appreciate everyone who joined us here, and make sure you stick around and check out today's episode of Nerdist Now. It's an awesome breakdown of the UK's weird, spooky trend called Ghost Stories for Christmas. And it's a breakdown by the wonderful Kyle Anderson of that unique, horrifying holiday tradition. And with that said, we'll see you back here next Monday for an all-new episode of Nerdist News Talks Back at 2 p.m. Pacific, live on Nerdist YouTube channel and Geek and Sundry's Twitch. So until then, stay safe, be healthy, and have a very happy holiday. Have a great day. See you next time. Bye-bye.